to the Northbound Coast and streaming live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
Today on Good Morning Maine, one person is dead and another is injured after a car collides with a dump truck in Waterville.
Plus, Dover Foxcroft is about to hold a vote, and people are riled up over how to handle the crumbling dam.
And a crackdown on panhandlers in Bangor is stirring controversy. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Emma Smith.
And I'm Craig Colson. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday morning. Boy, I just looked outside. It's nice out there. A lot of sunshine mixed in with the clouds. Looks like we'll have some more clouds moving in and a chance of rain later on. Last night, though, boy, crazy for a lot of people out there.
Yeah, some intense thunderstorms last night.
Yeah, what'd you have at your house? What was it like?
Thunderstorms and
Just
rain.
thunderstorms, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people had hail, I guess, but
yeah,
luckily
in Old Town, I've heard.
Yeah, luckily no major damage reported. There's like a handful of outages right now, and utility crews are trying to fix those.
Yep, seems like it. Yeah. Here's Devin Biggs with that forecast.
And thank you very much, Craig and Emma. Happy Thursday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center. We offer a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 cash drawing. Stop by with your returnables and enter for a chance to win. Alrighty, this morning, some areas of dense fog developing out there. It's not very widespread, but Bar Harbor, Millinocket, even across parts of Washington County, dealing with some areas of dense fog this morning, so please exercise some caution. As you do drive this morning, use those low beam lights or your fog lights. Do not use those high beam lights. That will not help you out at all. Meanwhile, though, as we take a look at the radar, we've been quiet overnight for a bit. We have a little bit of activity across the southern parts of the state, maybe a few raindrops showing up there, but otherwise for today, we'll just have some clouds and sunshine mixed in and maybe some sprinkles from time to time as well. Further off towards the south and west, a little bit more activity here. This may not cause us a bunch of issues for now, but things are about to get a little bit more active as we'll be watching for more showers and a few rumbles of thunder that'll enter the picture. So overall, partly cloudy today. A few sprinkles can't be ruled out. Coming up for tonight, watching out for a few more rain showers that will begin to move in. Otherwise, though, the wind's not too bad, roughly at around 5 to 10 miles per hour sustained, so won't be anything too ridiculous going on there. The winds will behave themselves tonight and also in the parts of tomorrow. So for today, we'll say partly cloudy, some sprinkles out there with highs in the mid-70s as southeast wind getting up to around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Alrighty, our early forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period showing a mostly cloudy sky, temperatures in the 70s with chances for sprinkles. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Emma.
All right, thank you, Devin. Well, one person was killed and at least one more was seriously injured following a crash in Waterville. According to the Waterville Police Department, it was around 2:30 Wednesday afternoon when a gray Toyota sedan and a large white work truck collided at the corner of West River Road and Trafton Road. Police aren't releasing many details at this time.
This time we have confirmed one fatality. We do have a second patient that was transported to Inland Hospital with significant injuries.
Police say they will be releasing more information once next of kin has been notified. Waterville Police and Fire Departments responded to the scene, and they were assisted by the Maine State Police Accident Reconstruction Team as they tried to determine what caused the car and the small dump truck to collide.
A Farmington man was also killed on Wednesday during a crash in Wilton. Police say 64-year-old Ernest Dunham was traveling on Route 2 around 6:40 yesterday morning when he suddenly went off the road. His vehicle traveled onto the lawn of a local church before striking a tree. Dunham was pronounced dead at the scene, and authorities believed he suffered a medical event that caused him to lose control.
A Louisiana man has been charged with manslaughter in connection with the death of a child in Thomaston. 23-year-old Isaiah Scott was arrested in New Orleans on Wednesday morning. A spokesperson for the Maine Department of Public Safety says 22-year-old Quashawn Wilson died in Thomaston on May 29th. According to the spokesperson, an autopsy determined that the cause of death was blunt force trauma. Scott, who is originally from Louisiana, had recently moved to Maine and was living with his girlfriend and child in Owl's Head. He returned to Louisiana after the child's death. The spokesperson says the process to extradite Scott back to Maine for manslaughter charges is now underway.
A man from Indian Township has been arrested in Massachusetts on rape charges. 42-year-old Nicole Mapolchis was arrested Tuesday in the town of Mashpee on a warrant for gross sexual assault. He was apprehended after the Passamaquoddy Police Department requested assistance from the Marshal Service's Violent Offender Task Force. Polchis is now being held as a fugitive from justice and is expected to be extradited back to Maine to face charges.
On Tuesday, Dover-Foxcroft residents will vote on a number of questions during the town's referendum election, including one that will decide the future of a local landmark. Our David Ledford spoke with town officials to break down the questions.
On June 11th, Dover-Foxcroft residents will head to the polls to weigh in on the town's municipal budget, several land use ordinances, and the fate of the Mayo Mill Dam.
The only item that's truly controversial and has people riled up is the dam question, because it represents change in the community.
Town officials say the dam poses safety risks, and bringing it up to code would cost at least $10 million, a bill that would fall to the taxpayers.
There hasn't been any power produced since 2007, and the industry no longer is operational. The dam contributes to flooding in our community, and that's a public safety issue that literally cuts the town in half.
However, removing the dam would come at no cost to the town, thanks to the project's eligibility for public and private grant funding. Town officials say some locals disapprove of the removal because of the dam's history.
They've seen that view of the river with the dam on it for their entire lives.
While the dam is the most hotly debated issue, town officials say it's important to weigh in on the rest of the referendum questions. Article 1 addresses the local school district budget, while Article 2 asks voters to increase the municipal budget to $9.1 million, partly to address road and bridge work in the town. And Articles 4 through 8 amend or enact land use ordinances.
Even though it's a state primary, it's primarily local issues, but it's very important that people come out for this election.
Polls open at 8 a.m. Tuesday at the town's municipal building. To review all of the ballot articles ahead of the referendum, visit our website. In Dover-Foxcroft, David Ledford, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Maine's senior senator grilled one of the nation's top law enforcement officials over illegal marijuana grows in Maine linked to China. The exchange came during the Senate Appropriation Committee's hearing to review the FBI's budget request for the upcoming fiscal year. Senator Collins pressed FBI Director Christopher Wray over actions the Bureau is taking to crack down on the illicit grow operations.
What is the FBI's theory about why Chinese nationals or Chinese transnational criminal organizations are setting up these illegal marijuana growing operations in states like Maine?
So it's something we have a number of investigations into, as you might imagine. I guess speaking in my sort of intelligence agency leadership role, we don't yet see, but we're obviously investigating any direct ties between these grows and, say, the Chinese government itself. But we are starting to see, as we unpack this more ties between a lot of these growing operations and Chinese organized crime.
This exchange comes after Senator Collins and the entire Maine delegation sent letters to Attorney General Merrick Garland, raising similar concerns.
Well, after growing safety concerns, the city of Bangor is now considering a proposal to expand its current ban on loitering in some areas of the city. But that possibility is sparking concerns from advocates who say the proposal is an unconstitutional measure. Our Grace Blanchard has more.
The city of Bangor is no stranger to loitering.
There's a loitering ordinance that the city has, and it's been in effect for quite some time.
According to Bangor's city solicitor, the city council is considering a new proposal that would add further provisions to the current law that prohibits people from obstructing both vehicle and pedestrian traffic in a public place.
The proposed one is a very narrow proposed addition to that ordinance that would say that you can't loiter on a median that's less than 6 feet wide in a high traffic, a high speed or high volume traffic area.
Growing safety concerns inspired the new proposal.
There's a narrow median on the Odland Road that is particularly dangerous.
However, some say this act is an infringement on First Amendment rights.
People have free speech rights in public. They have rights in the sidewalks, the streets, the parks, public squares.
ACLU of Maine has challenged similar ordinances in the past.
Bangor has a number of tools at its disposal to address this issue. They don't have to interfere with people's freedom of speech.
However, Bangor officials say this issue is not about free speech.
We are not favoring any form of speech. You can't loiter in these particular areas, and it doesn't matter if you're not saying anything. It doesn't matter.
According to Sevchek, the City Council is expected to review the proposal at their upcoming meeting, but he says they will need to review it at least twice before any changes are made to the ordinance. In Bangor, I'm Grace Blanchard for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Well, $4.3 million is going to the Passamaquoddy tribe to build a new eel aquaculture facility at Indian Township in Princeton. The money is coming from the USDA Rural Development. A statement says it will be an alternative to wild harvesting. The grant was only one of 8 across the nation. USDA Rural Development Maine Director Rihanna Hampson said the grant is an important investment in the tribal business and a critical step for a heritage industry. Hampson says, quote, resilience is rooted in diversity and innovation. By supporting this partnership, we are celebrating traditional resource harvesting while recognizing that innovation helps to achieve our goals for sustainable market access. Good news for the tribe.
Yeah. All right. The time now is 6:11. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, experts are warning that we're about to experience one of the worst brown-tail moth outbreaks in almost a century.
That is not good news at all, but we will have the story. But first, another check of that forecast today. Partly cloudy today with a chance of sprinkles on and off throughout the day. The highs around 76 degrees. Mostly cloudy with showers overnight, lows in the upper 50s. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy with showers with highs near 65. We'll be right back.
Bad boy mowers aren't built for everyone. They're built for the bold, the originals, people who get the job done and love every second of it. Bad boys are built for horsepower and cutting-edge precision with a first-of-its-kind 3-link suspension and a style all their own. Because you're not everyone, and that's a good thing. Bad boy, mow with an attitude.
Hi, I'm Barry Gass, and my grandfather started Gass Horse Supply and Western Wear right here in Orono in 1911. Just after World War II, my father ran the business for decades. Now, with my wife and wonderful staff, we are continuing the tradition of bringing the American West to Maine. Our authentic Western boots are handcrafted for comfort, style, work, and casual wear. Saddle up with our premium selection of top quality saddles. Top it off with the perfect hat from classic to modern ranch. Gass Horse Supply and Western Wear in Orono, where the American West comes alive in Maine.
Name a way a woman likes her men and her cheese.
Full of adventure.
Family Feud. Stop all this adventure.
Weekdays at 9 on ABC 7.
Welcome to the NBA's grandest stage.
When the situation gets real, the real one's gonna show up.
These two teams decide who will be the NBA champion.
Tip it off, set it off. The NBA Finals, Game 1 on ABC.
Find half-off deals today and save money by going to foxbangor.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Maine energy regulators have ordered an audit on the state's second largest energy utility. The Maine Public Utilities Commission says they have, quote, questions and concerns related to rate increases and other actions taken by Versant Power in recent years. Regulators say they will examine all of Versant's functions, including the effectiveness of senior managers and board of directors to manage operations, customer service it provides, and billing practices, among others. According to Public Advocate Bill Harwood, management audits typically happen every 3 to 6 years. Versant Power responded to the audit by saying, quote, transparency with our regulators is an essential and expected part of our business. Versant Power appreciates the opportunity to demonstrate the professionalism and discipline that we exercise every day in delivering safe, reliable service to our customers.
Brown-tail moth caterpillar experts say we're experiencing one of the worst outbreaks in nearly a century. According to a professor of forest entomology for the University of Maine, these outbreaks are part of their natural cycle. However, there have been significant spikes due to changes in the climate. The moths negatively impact the environment by eating the leaves off trees and causing damage. They're also a public health threat, as they have poisonous hairs that can cause a rash similar to poison ivy. However, there are steps that people can take to avoid exposure.
Wearing long sleeves and pants and covering up as much skin as possible. Waiting to mow the grass until the grass is a little bit wet to avoid kicking up those toxic hairs. And so there are a few things that we can do to reduce our risk.
MEC says they're monitoring the populations and looking at management methods to try to reduce them. She says we're currently in the worst stretch of the outbreak as they become full-grown this time of year, and it's unclear when the uptick will subside. For more information on how to protect yourself from brown-tail moth, visit our website, foxbangor.com.
Well, if you've been by the Belfast Community Co-op lately, you might have seen construction crews outside and a different layout inside. But soon the caution tape will be replaced with a ribbon. On June 21st, a ribbon cutting ceremony will welcome in the new and improved Belfast Community Co-op. Their new expansion project will include a 33% increase in store space, a 20% increase in available groceries, and the return of their cafe. And throughout the construction, the co-op has remained open.
Staying open was always the priority because we wanted to serve the people who shop here, and we also wanted to serve our workers who work here.
To learn more about the updates, you can check out this story on our website.
Rainbow crosswalks have returned to Ellsworth. Students at Ellsworth High School have been busy trying to finish painting one of the crosswalks at the school before the weekend. There is also one at the elementary and middle school and another in downtown Ellsworth.
Pride is really important, and if we want to really challenge bullying in schools, we have to really consider who is being bullied. And kids in the LGBTQ+ community are often the most bullied, and there's a lot of data to support that. So we are really trying to solve a problem, and we are.
She says they're making a lot of progress finding ways to include kids who are traditionally marginalized. Their Gender Sexuality Diversity Alliance started in 2020. This is the 4th season of Rainbow Crosswalks at the schools.
Well, some Maine libraries can't get books to their readers after the interlibrary loan system was temporarily suspended. According to the Maine State Library website, the contract with the courier service they previously used for library book loan transfers is up at the end of the month. An open bidding period has come and gone for new contracts. A company that placed a bid to provide the courier service had their bid rejected. The state has granted them the opportunity to appeal. But with little time left on the previous contract, materials can no longer be placed on loan because there will be no one to deliver them.
People want to read what they want to read, which of course they should, but we usually fix that by lending and borrowing, and right now we can't.
Now, librarians say there's no timeline for when this issue will be resolved. For more information on resources and library loan alternatives, you can visit our website at foxbangor.com. Not good news to the folks that want to borrow a book from another library.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Those smaller libraries are kind of struggling right now.
Yeah, they'll figure it out though.
Yep. All right, the time now is 6:17. After the break, a rare series of tornadoes ripped across the area north of Washington, D.C. yesterday. We'll have footage of the wild weather.
Plus that full weather forecast coming up on Good Morning Maine.
Hi. Deprioritized. But it's a work call. Oh, a work call? Oh, deprioritized.
T-Mobile home internet relies on cell phone towers, so when their network gets busy,
not the fridge, come on.
you can be deprioritized.
It's too bad, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Forget T-Mobile cell phone internet. Get home internet that puts you first. Get Spectrum.
Hammond Lumber Company has been a trusted partner of professional contractors, do-it-yourselfers, and homeowners for generations. It's the level of trust that Hammond Lumber has earned by providing an extensive selection of products and materials from industry-leading suppliers with guidance and support through every stage of any project, including delivery of materials throughout Maine and New Hampshire. Hammond Lumber Company is, has been, and will always be your building project partner.
Hank's Husqvarna is your trusted full-line Husqvarna dealer, offering you everything you need for your outdoor projects. From high-performance lawn tractors and zero-turn mowers to chainsaws, trimmers, battery-powered and powerful snow blowers, we have just what you need. Every piece of equipment is fully set up, serviced, and ready for use by our certified Husqvarna technician. And all sales are backed by our in-house Husqvarna warranty. For parts, service, or new equipment sales, make your way to Hank's Husqvarna in Carmel or Newport.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, now to the extreme weather, from record heat in the west to rare tornadoes near Washington, D.C. The commute here for other places in the Northeast could be challenging today with heavy rain in the early morning for some and storms later on in the day. But it's nothing compared to what people in Maryland saw last night. Andrew Dimpert has more.
Overnight, a rare series of tornado warnings north of Washington, D.C. Multiple twisters reported in Maryland, one reportedly crossing Interstate 95. The city of Gaithersburg hit hard. This man captured the inside of a tornado from his car.
I'm on the scene where a large tree crashed into a house.
5 people were trapped in this home after a large tree came crashing down. All 5 were rescued. 1 suffered traumatic injuries. The storms ripped trees from their roots, knocking down power lines and scattering roads with debris. Multiple buildings collapsed. George Mahono heard a tree fall onto his home.
When the tornado hit, I just hear loud thuds and banging on the window. And I just go upstairs, go to my bathtub, hide there.
The Midwest and Plains have already seen the busiest severe weather season in 13 years, with devastating storms from Nebraska to Kentucky to Texas this spring. And now experts say this outbreak is likely one of the worst to hit Maryland in years.
A big surprise. First time it's ever happened. We never had nothing like this before.
How long have you lived here?
I've lived here 75 years.
Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
There's just been so much of that lately. Horrible for all the victims out here. As far as our weather is concerned, it looks like a nice start to the day, but there will be an increasing chance of showers as we head towards the evening tonight.
Yeah, seems like a kind of unpredictable next few days as far as rain goes. Yeah. Here's Devin Biggs with the forecast.
All righty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center. We offer a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 cash drawing. Stop by with your returnables and enter for a chance to win. All righty, here we go. Wave heights not terrible out there at around 1 to 2 feet, according to the buoys. Even some areas at times getting up to around 3 feet. I'll move over here. You can see without buoy, it was reporting 3 feet for their height, at least at this time. But meanwhile, though, we do have some areas of dense fog greeting us this morning. That's reducing visibility from Millinocket to even parts of Bar Harbor, and Washington County dealing with more of the same as well. It's not very widespread, but you will encounter some fog as you do make that morning commute in some areas. But otherwise, though, as you do take a look at things, you do have some clouds out there. Even at times early this morning, a few bits of a rain shower or sprinkles developing. And in fact, we will be partly cloudy today with sprinkles that will be possible on and off. So zoom things out, though, while more energy moving in before you know it. Here's some more showers and storms across some parts of the eastern U.S. This will leave us alone today. But again, later tonight, rain showers move in, and storm chances will move in later on as well. So futurecast moving forward, we'll lose any fog that we have this morning. Will become partly cloudy this afternoon, so sprinkles can't be ruled out. As we head towards later on tonight, mostly cloudy, watching out for rain showers that will begin to enter the picture. And in fact, throughout Friday, watching out for some rain showers that will be on the way. Looking like a dreary day as we head towards you Friday. And in fact, by Friday night, watching out for a little bit more precipitation that will be entering the picture yet again. Meanwhile, though, let's talk about the rainfall. Again, very minimal, if anything, for today. That's the idea. Those sprinkles, just a little bit of rainfall, if anything, at best. But really, as we move forward in time, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and also in the parts of Monday, basically between now and Monday morning, could be talking about some spots ranging from maybe a half an inch to maybe up to an inch or two further out towards the north. So more rainfall on the way here across a good part of the state. Average high temperature is 72 degrees. We'll do middle 70s today, cooling off into the mid 60s for your Friday. We're back in the low 70s Saturday, Sunday, and then back in the middle 70s as we head towards your Monday as well. So lower 70s Saturday and Sunday, middle 70s Monday, upper 70s Tuesday, back in the mid 70s as we head towards your Wednesday. So for today, here we go. We have middle 70s, partly cloudy, some sprinkles out there, and at southeast wind getting up to around 5 to 10 miles per hour at times. For tonight, though, mostly cloudy, some showers. I don't think we'll have to worry about in the way of any lightning. Lows in the upper 50s, and at east wind getting up to around 5 to 10 miles per hour. For tomorrow, here we go. Showers again, mostly cloudy, highs in the mid 60s, and at east wind getting up to around 5 to 10 miles per hour. All righty, let's check out your extended forecast brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center. We will have to watch out for lightning on Saturday. Chances for showers and thunderstorms both Saturday and Sunday with highs in the low 70s. Then we'll warm up into the mid 70s Monday with a chance for showers and thunderstorms.
Let Hellman's Bakery put a smile on your face with their tasty offerings of breads, baked beans, lasagna, tuche and turkey pies, fruit and cream pies, wedding and specialty cakes, pastries, and more. Hillman's, your hometown bakery, Fairfield.
Great Scott! This is Green Bear 420 in 2010. What kind of trip is this? I gotta get back to 2023. Wait, it's 2015. So much has changed. In 2023, we had a lot more glass, t-shirts, and novelties. It's gonna take a bolt of lightning to get me home. Finally, home at last. Now Green Beer 420, Green Beer Green Care is bigger and better than ever. To be continued.
My name is Pam Crowley. In 1 year, I had to take care of burial or cremation arrangements for 4 family members, including my husband and my sister. I could not have gotten through everything without my funeral director, Cindy, at Bragdon Kelly Funeral Homes. Cindy greeted us as a friend. During her arrangement, she was so personable. Cindy is so patient and understanding. She gave us assurance, comfort, and she has such a great smile. The best thing that Cindy did is take such good care of my husband. He had some issues before his death. I felt very worried that he would not look right. When I saw him, he looked like my husband. Cindy took excellent care of him. Seeing him definitely helped me feel right. Cindy did more than I ever expected of a funeral director.
Bragdon Kelly Funeral Homes. Let our family serve yours.
How does the life you're living right now compare to the life you imagined?
GMA this morning.
Living the dream, baby.
What's Travis Kelce want you to know?
Ooh, man.
He's got a lot going on, and this morning he's only on.
Good morning, America.
There's one number you need to know. It's called Joe.
Senate Democrats proposed a bill that would protect access to contraception, but hoping to put Republicans on the record on the issue. The Right to Contraception Act failed by a vote of 51 to 39, and now Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer can bring the bill back up at a future date. Reproductive rights have become a major focus for the Biden-Harris campaign ahead of the November election. Fox News correspondent Connor Hansen has more from New York.
Near Capitol Hill, an inflatable IUD stands 20 feet high, put there by an advocacy group. They hope the giant contraceptive device brings awareness to a bill in the U.S. Senate that would guarantee access. Some Democrats believe the right to use contraception is under attack following the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
We live in a country where not only tens of millions of women have been robbed of their reproductive freedoms, we also live in a country where tens of millions more worry about something as basic as birth control. That's utterly medieval.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says a vote on the bill was meant to put Republican lawmakers on the record and say whether they support access to contraception. He says the bill would not expand abortion access, but frustrated Republicans insist there's no threat to contraception, saying the vote was purely political.
It's not a serious attempt to legislate. This is just a show vote in anticipation of the election. Democrats think they can win this case, this election based on reproductive rights.
The Biden-Harris campaign has put reproductive rights front and center in their re-election campaign, trying to draw a stark contrast from former President Donald Trump.
I'm sure across America they say, what, the Republicans voted against the right to safe and effective contraception? I thought that was a given in America.
Senate Democrats are also expected to bring up a vote on protecting in vitro fertilization. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
An Israeli airstrike on a school in central Gaza kills at least 32 people on Thursday, with 23 of them being women and children. This, according to Palestinian authorities. The Israel Defense Forces says the school-turned-shelter for displaced Palestinians was also being used as a Hamas compound. The IDF says Hamas members were using the compound as a cover for its operations. However, the school was being run by the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees. Israel's military says before the strike, it took steps to, quote, reduce the risk of harming uninvolved civilians. The airstrike comes after Israel announced new operations in central Gaza.
Well, in a rare event, Russian President Vladimir Putin took questions from an international group of journalists. Russia's war with Ukraine dominated the conversation. Putin was asked what it would take to end the conflict.
If you want to stop combat actions in Ukraine, stop supplying weapons, and hostilities will end in 2, maximum 3 months.
Now, the U.S. and allies have been doing the opposite, continuing to send military aid, and in a recent change of policy, Ukraine used U.S.-supplied weapons to strike certain targets inside Russia. Putin claims Russia could do the same by sending its own weapons to places within striking distance of Western targets. The Russian president was also asked if he could resort to using nuclear weapons.
We have our nuclear doctrine. Look at what is written there. If somebody's action will threaten our sovereignty and territorial integrity, we consider it possible to use all means at our disposal.
Well, as tensions with over Ukraine intensify, Russia is sending warships to the Caribbean for naval and air drills as well. Certainly not a good situation there.
No. Definitely not. Coming up on the second half of the newscast, have you ever been afraid of falling into quicksand? Well, that's exactly what a woman at Popham Beach recently experienced.
We'll have the story coming up on Good Morning Maine.
As winter fades and the weather warms, you might not be ready to think about air conditioning, but Valley Home Services is ready because now is the perfect time to beat the heat. Fujitsu heat pumps from Valley Home Services are not only great sources for heat in the colder months, they're also fantastic air conditioners for the hotter months. And right now is the best time to install a Fujitsu heat pump so you can take advantage of the efficiency for what heating is left and get a jump on the cooling for the summer. Embrace the comfort with Fujitsu and Valley Home Services.
I got hurt by a big truck. Why did I call the twos? Because life-changing injuries deserve life-changing money, and I'll fight to get it for you. We got a client who broke multiple bones in a commercial vehicle accident, $700,000. Another client had a brain injury, and we got them $1.15 million. If you get hurt by a big truck, call the twos. We win for you.
Hurt by a big truck, call the twos. We win for you.
Hank's Husqvarna is your trusted full-line Husqvarna dealer, offering you everything you need for your outdoor projects. From high-performance lawn tractors and zero-turn mowers to chainsaws, trimmers, battery-powered and powerful snow blowers, we have just what you need. Every piece of equipment is fully set up, serviced, and ready for use by our certified Husqvarna technician. And all sales are backed by our in-house Husqvarna warranty. For parts, service, or new equipment sales, make your way to Hank's Husqvarna in Carmel or Newport.
Every time you shop at Hannaford, you help us promote inclusivity, opportunity, and a sense of belonging in every store. You help us build a culture where leaders reflect our diverse communities, where veterans forge new career paths, and where our employees and neighbors alike can find their voice. Together, we're not just feeding families, we're strengthening communities. Hannaford Supermarkets, greater than groceries.
You're watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Welcome back, everyone. Today is Thursday, May 6th, 2020. June 6th, I'm sorry, 2024. I do that from time to time.
You do that.
Getting my months mixed up. This is also the anniversary of D-Day, a time to remember when Allied forces fought their way ashore in Normandy, France.
Yeah, there's been some commemorations recently, and the footage is beautiful and harrowing. It was during the morning on this day in 1944 when troops began moving ashore in a mission that would ultimately lead to the end of World War II. Codenamed Operation Overlord, it was known as the largest amphibious invasion in military history. This is a day to remember the events of that day and to honor the brave people who helped turn the tide of the war.
Well, meanwhile, also on this day in history, back in 1872, feminist Susan B. Anthony was fined for voting in an election in Rochester, New York. She refused to pay the fine, and the judge allowed her to go free.
That was like 50 years before women were allowed to vote.
Right. She was one of the ones that helped lead the way to eventually getting that right.
Right.
In 1882, H.W. Wheely patented the first electric clothes iron in the U.S. People didn't have to go around with wrinkly clothes anymore.
Yeah.
In 1930, frozen food was sold in retail stores for the first time. In 1933, the nation's first drive-in theater opened up in Camden, New Jersey.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
In 1944, the first nylon parachute jump was made by Adeline Gray in Hartford, Connecticut.
I thought you'd like that one. You know,
Yeah.
it was a woman who did it for the first time. She says, I'll
Right.
give it a try.
Yeah, I'm sure that changed the course of how paratroopers were utilized in the military.
Yeah.
In 1968, Senator Robert F. Kennedy died at a Los Angeles hospital 25 and a half hours after he was shot by an assassin during a campaign event. In 1984, the video game Tetris was released and instantly became a hit. It was created by Russian-born computer engineer and video game designer who wanted to recreate one of his favorite puzzle games from his childhood. I love Tetris.
Yeah, you could lose hours playing it too.
Yeah, I know. There was an arcade-style bar in Bangor. They recently got rid of most of their machines, and they're transitioning into a different business model. But they had a Tetris machine, and they had Space Invaders and Pac-Man and all sorts of
nostalgic
fun stuff.
Yeah.
I know. It was fun. I miss it. And in 2005, the Supreme Court ruled that people who smoked marijuana because their doctors recommend it ease pain could still be prosecuted for violating federal drug law.
All right, the birthdays today, they include actor Robert Englund, who is best known for his role as Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. He's 62. Journalist Natalie Morales is 52, and actor Paul Giamatti is 57 years old today. So we'd like to wish them a happy birthday.
Yeah, I love Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
He's in everything.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah. All right, moving right along. We're kind of heading into a weekend that's going to be a little chillier than it's been the past couple days. I say chilly, but not as hot.
Yeah, getting down into the 60s in some cases,
Yesterday felt quite tropical in Bangor, at least.
It did, yeah. I raked leaves for about 3 hours.
You got some brown-tailed moths,
didn't you? Got some brown-tailed moths, too.
Yeah. Oh, that's a bummer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're not fun.
Ugh. All right, here's Devin Biggs with that forecast.
And thank you very much, Craig and Emma. Happy Thursday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center. We offer a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 cash drawing. Stop by with your returnables and enter for a chance to win. Alrighty, this morning, some areas of dense fog developing out there. It's not very widespread, but Bar Harbor, Millinocket, even across parts of Washington County, dealing with some areas of dense fog this morning, so please exercise some caution. As you do drive this morning, use those low beam lights or your fog lights. Do not use those high beam lights. That will not help you out at all. Meanwhile, though, as we take a look at the radar, we've been quiet overnight for a bit. We have a little bit of activity across the southern parts of the state, maybe a few raindrops showing up there, but otherwise for today, we'll just have some clouds and sunshine mixed in and maybe some sprinkles from time to time as well. Further off towards the south and west, a little bit more activity here. This may not cause us a bunch of issues for now, but things are about to get a little bit more active as we'll be watching for more showers and a few rumbles of thunder that'll enter the picture. So overall, partly cloudy today. A few sprinkles can't be ruled out. Coming up for tonight, watching out for a few more rain showers that will begin to move in. Otherwise, though, the wind's not too bad, roughly at around 5 to 10 miles per hour sustained, so won't be anything too ridiculous going on there. The winds will behave themselves tonight and also in the parts of tomorrow. So for today, we'll say partly cloudy, some sprinkles out there with highs in the mid-70s as southeast wind getting up to around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Alrighty, our early forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period showing a mostly cloudy sky, temperatures in the 70s with chances for sprinkles. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Emma.
Thank you, Devin. Well, when you think of quicksand, you may think of a Tarzan or Indiana Jones movie where the star sinks slowly up to their neck before being rescued.
Well, Brad Rogers has a real-life quicksand story, not in a jungle, but right here in Maine on one of our popular beaches.
The tide was coming in, so it was high tide.
Jamie Acorn and her husband were walking along the shore of Popham Beach when the sand beneath their feet gave way.
And all of a sudden, I just went into the ground. I didn't panic. I wasn't scared. I dropped like a rock.
How far down did you go?
So I went to my hips. I couldn't touch the bottom. My husband just said, you were there and then you weren't. And he turned around and I looked at him and I said, I can't get out.
Park manager Sean Valancourt says it's not the first time it's happened.
We haven't had too many issues of it. A few people have stepped in and gone up to their knees or ankles or their waist. That's pretty typical around any river mouth.
But the river changed course last November. Now, instead of going straight out to sea, the river runs right along the beach, making the sand there unstable.
That sand's all full of water and saturated, so it's a lot looser. It's not a stable, flat bottom because there's so much water moving through the bottom of it, including the water that's coming in with the tide as well.
Does this qualify as quicksand?
Well, it depends. I guess technically that would be quicksand, but essentially what's happening, this phenomenon, is just oversaturated sand.
I had no idea that the sand was like quicksand.
Fortunately, she wasn't alone.
And as soon as my husband pulled me out, the whole hole just covered right up. We turned around and you couldn't even tell it was gone.
Park rangers tell us they'll soon be putting up signs here at Popham Beach State Park warning people about the possibility of quicksand-like sinkholes here on the beach. Park rangers say if you sink into the sand, don't panic. They say no one, not even children, will sink beyond their legs. They say you can lean forward or backward, try to wriggle out, or yell for help. They also say parents should keep children at arm's length when they're at or near the water.
Brad Rogers reporting. Scary situation down there.
Definitely. Popham Beach, it's one of my favorite beaches. Definitely a bit of a travel from central Maine. I think worth it. But they have experienced a very detrimental amount of erosion, especially over the winter with all the storms that we had. In fact, I'm happy to see that they still have some of the dunes based off of that video, but they really were hit hard over the winter. And this seems like a natural consequence of that.
One of so many areas. It's going to take a long time to recover.
Right. And still to come here this morning, Tyler Cruz has our sports updates.
Don't go away.
Let Hellman's Bakery put a smile on your face with their tasty offerings of breads, baked beans, lasagna, tuche and turkey pies, fruit and cream pies, wedding and specialty cakes, pastries, and more. Hillman's, your hometown bakery, Fairfield.
We've been on this property for 47 years. What I've learned along the way is the better tools you have, the easier the job and the better job you get.
He is a former owner of another brand, tractor. He wanted green.
Everything has to be pruned and cut, and there's a lot of stuff that has to get moved. You can't get any more American than John Deere, I don't think.
They don't write songs about any other tractor company. It's John Deere.
Experience United, your local John Deere dealer.
The Lucerne Inn and Ryan's Pub is world-renowned for beautiful dining with a delicious view. Relax, unwind, and enjoy their inviting atmosphere and inspired cuisine from their executive chef, Arturo Montes. Experience their Wine Down Wednesdays with half-off bottles of wine. Simply call to make your reservation today. You'll love the tradition of the Lucerne Inn.
Vehicle running a little rough? Let DNS Auto and Brewer fix you right up. Sales and full service repair shop. Running great now. DNS Auto, 510 Wilson Street in Brewer. Building relationships through quality sales and service.
Local news weeknights at 6 with Beth Jones and Peter Dubois on ABC 7.
Who is ready for the NBA Finals? It has been a long wait, but the Celtics finally play basketball Thursday night. Welcome back in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. The Boston Celtics and Dallas Mavericks both at TD Garden on Wednesday ahead of Game 1 of the 2024 NBA Finals. On Thursday, the Celtics will welcome back old friend, or maybe foe, depending on who you ask, Kyrie Irving. Irving was traded to Boston from the Cleveland Cavaliers after winning a ring with LeBron James and famously said he'd love to re-sign before leaving us for the Brooklyn Nets. His relationship with Boston fans since has been rocky, to say the least, but leading up to this series, he gives some insight on his relationship with the Celtics players, mainly Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
You know, it's going to be adversarial on the court. It's going to be very competitive, but off the court, I mean, we know our family, we know each other's families, and that's the type of relationship I've always wanted outside of the game of basketball, is to be able to have that balance, to compete with people on the court, but also treat them like my brothers and be there for them and whatever they need.
Should be a fun series. Irving is averaging over 22 points and 5 assists so far this postseason. On Wednesday night, the America East announced their Man and Woman of the Year for 2024, and taking the award back to Maine for just the third time is Connor Goodman. Goodman, a graduate senior for Maine baseball, had a tremendous off-the-field career. This past fall, his charity drive Goodies Gloves raised money and donated 84 gloves to the Orono and Old Town Little Leagues. In the spring, he was named an honorable mention by the Lou Gehrig Community Impact Association, one of just 15 players named to that list. A well-deserved recognition for an athlete that's really been a blast to cover over the past few seasons. Congratulations to Goody. All right, let's head up to Orono High School now. The Red Riots 2023 state champions championship 8-man football team gathering Wednesday night to truly make it official by putting rings on their fingers. Should have put a ring on it. The school's Performing Arts Center hosting a ring ceremony Wednesday night with every player and coach receiving them, which were made possible by donations from individuals and local businesses. With the Riots going 0 for 8 in 2021, a night like this seemed so far away. And even though 7 months have gone by since they defeated Old Orchard Beach in the state title game, the excitement still hasn't died off. Plus, to some, it's only just starting to sink in.
After the football state championship, I was already locked in on moving to that next season to try to push forward. So bringing it back and getting these today made it feel extra special today. We came out here and we worked hard and we had fun together doing it. And when you win, it makes it just as much fun.
It feels real, you know. Like you don't really realize it until you get the ring on. It's still crazy to me. Seeing these group of guys, it's played youth with them, middle school and now high school, and to accomplish this, it's you can't write it better. You can't write a better ending.
Oh, those look pretty nice there, too. Let's stay with some playoff action, but we'll pivot down to the high school level, stay at the high school level, and we'll kick off the day at Bordick Park. Class A North Regional quarterfinals. Top seed Hamden hosting the Brewer Witches. Top of the 6th, Brewer up 1 with a man on. Look at this throw from Rogan Lord to catch the runner stealing for the out. Just a great shoot right there from behind the plate. A few pitches later, the defense would keep rolling. Garrett McLeod at first base makes an incredible play on a hard hit ball that retires the side. This game was all about Grady Venetestein. The senior dazzled again with 10 strikeouts over 6 2/3 innings, retires the side in the 6th right here. And look at that. He is pumped up. The Witches roll to a 1-0 upset victory.
It feels great. I mean, we got our redemption from last year. Last year was a horrible feeling. So, I mean, we got that great feeling back and won a playoff game, and we're just going to keep on going.
Moving over to the turf at Hamden Academy, Broncos softball hosting Messalonsky. Bottom of the 1st, runner on for Lorelei Parker. She rips a liner into left. Charlie Shute is going to get on her horse. She comes around to score. That makes it 1-0 Broncos. But then the Eagles would settle in. 2 runners on, and Madison Wilson gets the grounder to 3rd. Clean play from Elise McDonald. That ends that threat. Next inning, Kiara Gabrick. She's at the plate, sends a liner into right field, and Chloe Michoud makes the running play to grab the out. But the Broncos had it going on that defensive end, too. Shute had a gem in the circle, and Hamden advances to the semifinals with a 1-0 shutout win. Finally up to Old Town for a Class B baseball quarterfinal. Caribou Vikings visiting the Coyotes. First inning, Caribou up 1-0. Bryce Dillon, hard chopper to second. That takes a funny hop and gets into right field. Matt Pelletier is going to come around and score. Vikings up 3 after 1. Bottom of the frame, Jackson Lizotte up for Old Town. Puts a great swing on this ball. That goes off the wall and right. That is going to plate a run. Old Town clawing their way back. 3-2 now after a passed ball, but that doesn't faze Braden Brescia. Look at this curveball for the backwards K. Vikings allow just those 2 runs in the 1st, cruise to a 12-2 victory. And as for some other scores from around the area, PCHS in Greenville over Buckfield in 8 innings, 8-5. Ellsworth softball beats MDI 9-7. Washington Academy softball tops Orono 2-1, and MDI baseball over Coney 7-6. All right, that is all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
While politicians talked, President Trump fought for working people. He took on China and secured the border. I'm Austin Terrio, former NASCAR driver and small business owner. I'm proud to have President Trump's endorsement. Together we'll secure the border, stop Biden's electric vehicle mandate, and bring back American manufacturing. I'll fight to make sure our best days are ahead.
Endorsed by President Trump. Austin Terrio for Congress.
I'm Austin Terrio, and I approve this message.
Your local professional, eco-friendly office space partner is Levesque Business Solutions, your one-stop shop to get the job done. Handling all your office furniture and printing machine needs at an affordable price. Offering full system integration into your workplace and local service on everything we sell. We can even remote monitor your system with just-in-time inventory and service need assessments. Little to no downtime gives you peace of mind. At Levesque Business Solutions, your solution is only an email or a phone call away.
Toyota trains certified technicians. Is that important?
Well, you wouldn't hire just anyone to help you move, would you?
No.
Of course not.
Not again.
Get your Toyota ready for that summer road trip. See your New England Toyota dealer for great service offers to help keep your Toyota dependable and fuel efficient all summer long. Toyota Service Centers. Keep your Toyota a Toyota.
A horror franchise is getting adapted into a TV series, and music stars head to Los Angeles.
Fox's Ashley Dvorkin has those stories and more in the Hollywood Nation.
Spaney battles aliens, Longoria returns to the small screen, and music stars align in the Hollywood Nation. The 2024 iHeartRadio Music Festival revealed its star-studded lineup. Gwen Stefani, Keith Urban, Camila Cabello, and Doja Cat are among the artists performing at the two-day weekend event in Las Vegas on September 20th and 21st. Each night will broadcast live on iHeartMedia radio stations and stream on Hulu. Eli Roth's horror franchise Hostel is heading to the small screen. According to The Hollywood Reporter, a TV adaptation of the film series is in the works, with Paul Giamatti set to star.
I thought Black Barbie felt magical.
Today's first looks features Shonda Rhimes' documentary Black Barbie. The film shines a light on the impact of the 3 black women at Mattel, responsible for launching the first Black Barbie in 1980. It will be available to stream on Netflix June 19th.
Girls trip!
Eva Longoria makes her return to TV as the executive producer and star of the Apple TV Plus series Land of Women. She plays a wealthy New Yorker whose life is turned upside down when she is forced to move her family to Spain to protect them from criminals looking to collect unpaid debts of her missing husband. The dramedy premieres June 26th.
Is this really where you want to spend the rest of your life?
Kaylee Spaney leads the sci-fi horror Alien Romulus. 20th Century Studios released the official trailer for the franchise reboot, following a group of young space colonizers who come face-to-face with a terrifying xenomorph inside an abandoned space station. The film debuts August 16th.
Run.
In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
Ooh, that one looks interesting.
I know. I think there's a lot of people in our production team who are quite excited about the new Alien.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Here's meteorologist Devin Biggs with one final look at our full weather forecast.
All righty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center. We offer a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 cash drawing. Stop by with your returnables and enter for a chance to win. All righty, here we go. Wave heights not terrible out there at around 1 to 2 feet, according to the buoys. Even some areas at times getting up to around 3 feet. I'll move over here. You can see without buoy, it was reporting 3 feet for their height, at least at this time. But meanwhile, though, we do have some areas of dense fog greeting us this morning. That's reducing visibility from Millinocket to even parts of Bar Harbor, and Washington County dealing with more of the same as well. It's not very widespread, but you will encounter some fog as you do make that morning commute in some areas. But otherwise, though, as you do take a look at things, you do have some clouds out there. Even at times early this morning, a few bits of a rain shower or sprinkles developing. And in fact, we will be partly cloudy today with sprinkles that will be possible on and off. So zoom things out, though, while more energy moving in before you know it. Here's some more showers and storms across some parts of the eastern U.S. This will leave us alone today. But again, later tonight, rain showers move in, and storm chances will move in later on as well. So futurecast moving forward, we'll lose any fog that we had this morning. Will become partly cloudy this afternoon, so sprinkles can't be ruled out. As we get towards later on tonight, mostly cloudy, watching out for rain showers that will begin to enter the picture. And in fact, throughout Friday, watching out for some rain showers that will be on the way. Looking like a dreary day as we head towards you Friday. And in fact, by Friday night, watching out for a little bit more precipitation that will be entering the picture yet again. Meanwhile, let's talk about the rainfall. Again, very minimal, if anything, for today. That's the idea. Those sprinkles, just a little bit of rainfall, if anything, at best. But really, as we move forward in time, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and also in the parts of Monday, basically between now and Monday morning, could be talking about some spots ranging from maybe a half an inch to maybe up to an inch or two further out towards the north. So more rainfall on the way here across a good part of the state. Average high temperature is 72 degrees. We'll do middle 70s today, cooling off into the mid 60s for your Friday. We're back in the low 70s Saturday, Sunday, and then back in the middle 70s as we head towards your Monday as well. Also, lower 70s Saturday and Sunday, middle 70s Monday, upper 70s Tuesday, back in the mid 70s as we head towards your Wednesday. So for today, here we go. We have middle 70s, partly cloudy, some sprinkles out there, and a southeast wind getting up to around 5 to 10 miles per hour at times. For tonight, though, mostly cloudy, some showers. I don't think we'll have to worry about in the way of any lightning. Lows in the upper 50s and an east wind getting up to around 5 to 10 miles per hour. For tomorrow, here we go. Showers again, mostly cloudy, highs in the mid 60s, and an east wind getting up to around 5 to 10 miles per hour. All righty, let's check out your extended forecast brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center. We will have to watch out for lightning on Saturday. Chances for showers and thunderstorms both Saturday and Sunday with highs in the low 70s. Then we'll warm up into the mid 70s Monday with a chance for showers and thunderstorms.
When Raoul's Garage in Dover Foxcroft wants to know the local forecast, they log on to foxbangor.com. Raoul's Garage has been serving customers in the greater Dover Foxcroft region since 1946. Our goal is not just selling you a vehicle, but also giving you quality service to maintain your vehicle at peak performance.
Hello, fellow flyers. I'm the Savvy Traveler, here to share the secrets of convenience at Bangor International Airport. Parking, you're steps away from the terminal. Inside, even more conveniences. And friendly, efficient security. All of these make BGR the official airport of you. Remember, the Savvy Travel through Bangor International Airport. Flybangor.com.
Hello, this is George Whelan with Down East Direct Cremation. Now, anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, from the comfort of your desktop or the convenience of your mobile device, you can summon transport and arrange a simple, affordable, respectful Down East Direct Cremation for your deceased loved one. Just by using the button exclusively at downeastdirectcremation.com. All you need is the location address of the person who has died, their vital statistics information, a valid credit card for payment, and that's it. No need to pick up the telephone, no need to answer a bunch of questions, no need to come into the store, and it's still just $9.75 complete. It's so easy, even I can do it. For more information, visit us at downeastdirectcremation.com or call us at 207-225-5332. Simple, affordable, respectful. The button, only at downeastdirectcremation.com.
Welcome to the NBA's grandest stage.
When the situation gets real, the real one's gonna show up.
These two teams decide who will be the NBA champion.
Tip it off, set it off. The NBA Finals, Game 1 on ABC.
The Allies have once again converged on Normandy, France. But this time, it's to mark 80 years since D-Day, the historic turning point of World War II. Yesterday, more than 300 paratroopers from the United States, the United Kingdom, and Belgium parachuted into the area known as Drop Zone K, near Sannerville, recreating the airborne liberation of Normandy. Those who took part in the reenactment called it an honor and a privilege. What a good way to commemorate it.
Yeah, I bet that was powerful to be there too, to watch it all happening as it unfolded.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, looks like we're about out of time for now. If you missed anything, you can head to foxbangor.com. And as always, we will continue broadcasting on Fox 22.
We hope you have a wonderful day.
Next Jeopardy for the first time this season.
Her 6th consecutive victory.
Can she keep her cool on this hot streak? If not, no pressure.
Well, unfortunately, we are going to put it on TV.
Tonight's Jeopardy will air on Fox 22 at 7:30.
R&K Variety is more than just a convenience store. With delicious homemade food made fresh daily. We offer hearty meals that don't break the bank. Whether it be our delicious chicken pot pie, one of our many savory soups, or a pizza, you can't go wrong at R&K Variety. Looking for a drink after a long workday? R&K Variety is an agency liquor store with an impressive selection. R&K Variety, more than just a convenience store. We're your neighbor, chef, barista, and friend. Stop by today.
Ready to create your backyard oasis? Alexander's Professional Landscaping will work with you to create your perfect outdoor space.
Work one-on-one with our landscape designer to create a unique garden to fit your family's personal aesthetics and lifestyle. Have our pros install your new lawn, deck, or patio. Schedule a consultation today by calling 573-4497. Alexander's Professional Landscaping, the way landscaping should be.
Adding comfort and beauty to your home for less is as easy as 1, 2, 3 during Renewal by Anderson's Easy 3Z replacement window event. The time to act is now because Renewal by Anderson is making it easy and affordable with huge discounts on our exclusive custom replacement windows and our doors, along with special financing options so affordable you won't want to miss out on this event. And to top it all off, professional installation by our certified master installers is always included. Like we said, Easy 3Z. Call today.
Get ready for the NBA Finals on ABC with the NBA Finals pregame show with local commentary, analysis, and predictions as the Celtics and Mavericks battle it out for the championship. Tonight at 7:30 on ABC 7.
You're watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Good morning, America. President
Now coached and streaming live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
Hello, everyone. Today on Good Morning Maine, one person is dead and another is injured after a car collides with a dump truck in Waterville.
Plus, Dover Foxcroft is about to hold a vote, and people are riled up over how to handle the crumbling dam.
And a crackdown on panhandlers in Bangor is stirring controversy.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Emma Smith.
And I'm Craig Colson. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll have those stories coming up, including our Pet of the Week segment later on. But first, let's talk about the weather. Some crazy weather last night. Strong, vivid lightning across the area. Some areas even saw hail. And I was just reading on social media that Newburgh and Carmel firefighters had to respond to a lightning strike. It struck a barn over there. It looks like they got the fire knocked down pretty quickly. But there were some concerns for them. Today, it should be a little bit calmer.
Yeah.